The distress signal arrived without warning, an echo across the abyss of space. Faint at first, a whisper lost among the galactic background noise, it repeated in intervals, growing more desperate with each transmission. Most who detected it dismissed it immediately. The Exilari Syndicate marked it as a probable trap. The Varn Dominion labeled it as irrelevant. Even the exalted Celestine Concordance, self-proclaimed guardians of the known universe, ignored it. To them, it was just another plea for help from a dying world, one of countless that faded into nothingness. But when that signal reached the Sol system, something different happened. Humanity, ever the anomaly among the galactic races, did not ignore distress calls. They did not weigh the risks against the rewards with the cold calculus of the older empires. They listened. Within hours, the Turan Union High Command analyzed the message. It was crude, laced with distortions and static, yet the desperation was unmistakable. The language was unknown, but the meaning was clear. A simple transmission, looping endlessly. We are lost. We are dying. Please, someone, anyone, help us. A response was inevitable. A fleet was assembled, led by the dreadnought Resolute, the pride of the Terran Armée. At its helm stood Commander Elias Voss, a veteran of humanity's wars, known for leading missions others would have abandoned. He and his crew had seen battlefields across the stars, but none of them knew what awaited them beyond this signal. As the fleet entered uncharted space, approaching the source of the transmission, their long-range scans painted a grim picture. A planet, once thriving, now shrouded in darkness. No electromagnetic signatures of an active civilization, no spacefaring vessels in orbit, just ruins and silence. Yet something was still there. Buried beneath the interference, deeper scans detected faint life signatures, a handful barely clinging to existence. And then came the anomaly. A structure beneath the planet's surface, massive and pulsing with an energy signature unlike anything recorded. Voss narrowed his eyes as the reading stabilized. That's no natural formation. The science officer, Lieutenant Serrano, paled as more data poured in. Sir, this isn't just ruins. Something is still moving down there. A chill settled over the bridge. The mission had just changed. This was no simple rescue. Something was waiting for them. The fleet hung in orbit above the planet like silent sentinels, their hulls gleaming against the abyss of space. The world below was a graveyard. No signs of civilization. No bustling cities. Just a vast, scared landscape of shattered ruins and lifeless dust. Commander Elias Voss stood at the command platform of the Resolute, staring at the planet through the reinforced viewport. Even from high orbit, he could see the devastation. A civilization had once thrived here, and now it was nothing but echoes of the past. Begin atmospheric scans, Voss ordered. I want a full analysis before we even think about sending anyone down. Lieutenant Serrano, the ship's science officer, worked quickly, her fingers gliding across the holographic controls. Scanning now, sir. The planet's surface is unstable. Cracks in the crust, seismic activity, erratic weather patterns. She hesitated as more data filled her screen. This place is dying. Voss exhaled slowly. He had seen worlds reduced to ruin before, but this was something else. Then came the biosignatures. Multiple life readings, Serrano reported. Weak, scattered across the remains of what looks like a major city. The bridge crew stiffened. Survivors. Against all odds, someone was still alive down there. Voss turned to his tactical officer, Commander Rourke. Prep a landing team. I want a full recon squad armed and ready. We go in careful. We don't know what we're walking into. Rourke nodded. Aye, sir. I'll have teams assembled in 15. Within minutes, 3 shuttles descended from the Resolute, piercing through the planet's turbulent atmosphere. The descent was rough. The winds howled, thick clouds choked the sky, and visibility was near zero. Lightning arced through the upper atmosphere, illuminating the skeletal remains of colossal skyscrapers. As the first shuttle neared the surface, its floodlights cut through the gloom, revealing the city below. It was a ruin in the truest sense. Buildings, once towering marvels of architecture, lay in shattered heaps. Roads had collapsed into deep chasms, and what little remained standing was barely held together by time and dust. Deploying ground teams, Rourke's voice crackled over comms. Touchdown in 30 seconds. The shuttles landed in what had once been a grand plaza. Now it was nothing but cracked pavement and broken monuments. As the hatches hissed open, armored Terran soldiers moved out in tight formations, their weapons raised, scanning for threats. And then they saw them. Huddled beneath the remains of a toppled tower, barely clinging to life, were the Velari, thin, bird-like humanoids with luminous, glassy eyes. Their once proud forms were now frail, their robes tattered, their bodies trembling with exhaustion. One of them, an elder with hollow cheeks and trembling hands, staggered forward. His voice was barely above a whisper, but the translation I embedded in the Terran soldiers' helmets made his words clear. "You came." Voss stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "We heard your distress call. What happened here?" The Velari elder looked past him, as if expecting to see someone else. Then his gaze lowered, his entire frame shuddering with grief. "They left us," he whispered. Voss frowned. "Who?" The elder turned his eyes skyward, past the choking clouds. "Everyone. Our allies. The other empires. They saw what came for us, and they ran." His voice broke. They knew there was nothing they could do. A silence settled over the landing zone. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Voss, however, did not move. His instincts screamed at him. This was more than just a planetary collapse. He fixed the elder with a firm stare. "What came for you?" The Velari elder swallowed hard. His breath was shaky, his eyes distant, as if reliving a nightmare. And when he finally spoke, his words sent a chill through the entire team. "The Maw." A rumble echoed through the ruins. At first, it was distant, like a whisper beneath the earth. But then the ground trembled, sending a fine layer of dust cascading from the broken buildings. The soldiers raised their weapons, their grips tightening. And then came the sound, a deep, unnatural hum vibrating through the air, like something massive shifting below the planet's surface. Voss's comm crackled. "Sir," Serrano's voice came from orbit, urgent and strained. "We just picked up a massive energy spike beneath your location. Something's waking up." Then, from the depths of the planet, something began to rise. A deep, resonant hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground like the slow exhale of some ancient, slumbering beast. The ruins of the fallen Velari city trembled, sending cascades of dust and debris tumbling from shattered skyscrapers. Commander Elias Voss instinctively reached for his sidearm, though he knew, deep down, that no handheld weapon would be enough if the worst was true. The Velari elder collapsed to his knees, his frail body quivering. "It's waking up." His voice was barely above a whisper, yet the weight of his words sent a shudder through the assembled Terran forces. Voss's comm earpiece crackled. Lieutenant Serrano's voice, tense and urgent, came through from the Resolute still in orbit. "Sir, we've got a massive energy fluctuation below your position. I'm talking planetary-level instability. I don't know what's down there, but it's alive." The words sent a cold spike of dread through Voss's gut. Alive. Rourke, standing at Voss's side, clenched his jaw. "Whatever this Maw is, I don't think we want to be here when it fully wakes up." Voss surveyed the team, his mind racing. They had come in response to an SOS, expecting to find survivors in need of help, not an ancient force stirring beneath their feet. He turned to the Velari elder. "Tell me everything. What is the Maw?" The elder's hollow eyes locked onto Voss's, his feathery fingers curling into trembling fists. "It is the hunger that does not end. It does not fight. It does not conquer. It only devours." Voss didn't like the sound of that. Be specific, Rourke pressed, his grip tightening on his rifle. What is it? A machine. A creature. The elder shook his head, his breathing ragged. It is neither. And both. It was once contained, buried beneath the surface by the first Vellery, to walk this world. But something broke the seal. And when it woke, it spread. His voice cracked. It took everything. It ate the sky. Before Voss could respond, the ground lurched violently, nearly knocking the team off their feet. A fissure split the plaza in two, an enormous crack searing across the city ruins. Molten rock oozed from beneath the surface, glowing an eerie, unnatural violet. Serrano's voice was nearly frantic now. Sir, seismic activity is off the charts. You need to evacuate, now. But it was already too late. The ground buckled again, and from deep within the widening chasm, something began to emerge. At first, it was only shadows, twisting unnaturally against the glow of molten rock. Then, an impossibly large form rose, a shifting mass of obsidian and organic sinew, its surface rippling, as if it were half solid, half liquid. It was massive, stretching beyond the limits of human comprehension, a writhing storm of black tendrils and jagged protrusions. And then it opened its eyes. Thousands of them, scattered across its undulating form, irises burning like dying stars, each one locked onto the Terran soldiers with an intelligence that was neither animal nor machine. It wasn't just awake. It was aware. A deep, resonant vibration pulsed from its form, a soundless scream that bypassed the ears and dug directly into the mind. Every soldier staggered, clutching their heads as an overwhelming wave of hunger slammed into their thoughts. It was not words. It was not language. It was a need. Voss clenched his jaw, his vision blurring. This was not a monster. This was a force of nature. A cosmic parasite that consumed thought, energy, and life itself. And it had just decided that the humans were next. Back to the shuttles. Now. Rourke barked, dragging the soldier to his feet. The first Terran opened fire, a desperate, reflexive action. The plasma bolt vanished midair, absorbed into the creature's body without a trace. The maw shifted. It learned. Then it moved. Tendrils shot out from its form, moving with terrifying precision, as if guided by some horrific intelligence. One soldier was too slow. A tendril wrapped around him, lifting him effortlessly. His body convulsed, his armor's power systems draining instantly as the energy bowled into the creature. His scream lasted less than a second. Then he was gone, consumed in an instant, not as flesh and blood, but as existence itself erased. Get moving, Voss roared, his voice cutting through the chaos. The team broke into a full sprint, hauling the Vellery survivors with them. The maw surged forward, consuming the ruins, the very air around them darkening as its influence grew. Voss grabbed the Vellery elder, practically carrying him toward the nearest shuttle as debris crashed down around them. They were running out of time. The shuttles roared to life, engines blazing. One final push. Voss dove aboard just as the hatch sealed. Get us out of here, now. The pilots didn't hesitate. The thrusters ignited, and the shuttle shot skyward, barely dodging the collapsing ruins as the maw surged up after them, its countless eyes watching, waiting. The view from the cockpit was worse than any of them expected. The maw was growing, expanding outward, its tendrils reaching beyond the ruins. The once dead sky was now filled with writhing darkness, twisting like a celestial storm, tendrils stretching toward the orbiting Resolute. Captain, Serrano's voice was nearly shrieking over comms. It's reaching past the atmosphere. We have tow. A massive impact tremor slammed through the Resolute, making its hull groan. The maw was trying to pull the ship in. Voss clenched his fists. No, not today. He turned to the weapons officer. Charge the main cannons. Target the fissure. Rourke's eyes widened. You're gonna shoot the damn planet. If that thing is feeding off the core, Voss snapped, then we starve it. A beat of hesitation, then a nod. All batteries. Fire. From orbit, the Resolute's main cannons ignited, unleashing a cataclysmic barrage of plasma lances and kinetic strikes straight into the chasm. A blinding explosion tore through the surface, sending shockwaves across the planet. The ground caved inward, swallowing the ruins, and the maw along with it. Silence. The shuttles cleared the atmosphere, racing toward the Resolute as the maw's last echoes faded. The storm of tendrils collapsed inward, its presence flickering, then disappearing into the depths of the dying world. For now, Voss exhaled sharply, watching as the planet below tore itself apart. This wasn't over. Whatever the maw was, this was only one piece of it, and something out there had broken the seal. Voss turned to the Vellery Elder. Who did this? The Elder's voice was weak, but certain. The ones who left us behind. Voss's eyes narrowed. Then we find them. And we make them answer. The Resolute drifted in high orbit above the dying world, its massive hull illuminated by the flickering remnants of the planet's slow collapse. Below, the wound in the crust still smoldered, a scar left by the devastating orbital bombardment. But the maw, whatever it was, had disappeared beneath the ruins. For now, Commander Elias Voss stood on the command deck, arms folded, watching the planet's slow death through the reinforced viewport. It should have felt like a victory. They had survived. They had stopped the maw from reaching beyond the atmosphere. But his gut told him something was still terribly wrong. Lieutenant Rourke approached, his boots echoing against the polished steel. Scans confirm the planet's core is destabilizing. It's going to break apart. He exhaled, rubbing his temple. I'd say we did a damn good job sealing that thing down there. Voss's jaw tightened. No, we just buried it deeper. Rourke hesitated, then nodded. He knew better than to argue. Behind them, the Vellery Elder stood, still trembling, his feathery crest twitching in erratic spasms. He had been silent since they'd reached orbit, watching the world below with an expression that wasn't grief, but something worse, resignation. Voss turned to face him. Tell me again, who did this? The Elder's black, sunken eyes shifted toward him. The ones who abandoned us. The ones who betrayed the Vellery. His voice was thin, brittle, as if saying the words cut him from the inside. Voss narrowed his eyes. Betrayed? You mean your own people did this? The Elder shook his head. Not ours. Not anymore. A silence settled between them, broken only by the distant hum of ship systems. The Elder inhaled slowly, as if steadying himself for the weight of what he was about to reveal. We were not always alone on this world, he began. There was another, our sister race, the Varuan. We shared this planet for thousands of cycles, living, growing, learning. And together, we built the seal. Voss's eyes darkened. The seal, the ancient structure that had held the maw in place for untold millennia. But they turned on you, he muttered. The Elder's nod was barely perceptible. They were afraid. Afraid that the maw was not a thing to be imprisoned, but a thing to be harnessed. They believed they could control it, that they could wield its hunger as a weapon. Voss exchanged a sharp glance with Rourke. You're telling me these. What did you call them? Varuan broke the seal on purpose. The Elder's gaze burned. They did more than break it. They fed it. Rourke let out a low curse, pacing back and forth. So let me guess, the maw started eating them first. The Elder gave a slow nod. It did, but by the time they realized their mistake, it was too late. The maw could not be contained. It had tasted thought, consciousness, something more than mere flesh. He let out a hollow breath, and so they ran. They fled to the stars and left us to die. Silence fell over the command deck. Voss clenched his fists. This wasn't just an accident. This was a deliberate atrocity. The Varuan had doomed their own homeworld, sacrificed an entire species to cover their mistake, and then disappeared into the void. Rourke let out a low growl. And let me guess, nobody's heard from these bastards since. The elder turned back toward the viewport. Oh, we have heard from them. His voice was almost a whisper. They became conquerors. They became kings. And now, they rule. Voss's stomach sank. They're still alive. The elder's head turned just enough for Voss to see the hatred burning in his ancient eyes. Alive and thriving. Voss exhaled, forcing himself to remain calm. The implications were staggering. A rogue civilization that had weaponized an eldritch horror, and then vanished into the stars to escape the consequences. And now, they were out there. Somewhere. Untouched. Unpunished. A notification flashed across the command console. Lieutenant Serrano's voice crackled over comms. "Sir, you're going to want to see this. We've picked up a transmission." Voss and Rourke strode to the console. Serrano keyed in a sequence, and the message began playing. The language was unfamiliar, guttural, sharp, alien. But the tone was unmistakable. It was calm, cold, confident. Then the translation software kicked in. A synthetic voice read the words aloud. "To the Terran vessel, you should not have interfered. You should not have disturbed the maw." Voss's spine went rigid. His fists clenched. They were watching. The transmission continued. "It is awake now, and it will follow you." A sharp silence followed. Then, just before the message ended, the final words came through. "You carry the hunger with you." And then, nothing. The signal vanished, as if it had never existed. Voss's heart pounded. Had the maw already latched onto them? Had they unknowingly become its next prey? Serrano's voice broke the silence. "Sir, we're picking up anomalous readings near the hull." Voss turned, his pulse racing. "Define anomalous." Serrano swallowed hard. "It's not on the ship, but it's following us, moving with us. It's..." He hesitated, then met Voss's gaze with something close to horror. "Sir, it's in the void." A sick realization settled over the crew. They had sealed the maw inside the planet, but something else had come with them. Something unseen. Something waiting. Voss turned to Rourke. "Get weapons online. Full scan of the surrounding space." Rourke nodded, but there was something dark in his expression. What if weapons weren't enough? Voss didn't care. He wasn't going to let the Varun win. If they thought they could unleash this nightmare upon the galaxy and slip away into the void unscathed, they were wrong. Dead wrong. He turned back to the elder, his voice like steel. "Where are they?" The elder hesitated, then spoke a single word. "Oryx Prime." Voss set his jaw. "Then that's where we're going. And this time, we bring the war to them." The Resolute carved its path through the void, its engines burning with cold determination. The crew had faced horrors beyond comprehension, and yet, what lay ahead was perhaps even worse. Oryx Prime. The name now burned in Commander Elias Voss's mind, a beacon of vengeance. It wasn't just another planet. It wasn't just another enemy stronghold. It was the heart of the Varun Empire, the betrayers, the cowards, the ones who had unleashed the maw upon their own world and left the Vellery to suffer alone. The bridge of the Resolute was quiet, save for the hum of instruments and the occasional flicker of a holographic display. The crew moved with silent urgency, their faces set in grim determination. They had all heard the transmission. "You should not have interfered. It is awake now, and it will follow you." Voss stood at the central console, eyes fixed on the holographic star map before him. The elder Vellery stood at his side, a somber shadow wrapped in ancient regret. Lieutenant Rourke leaned over the table, studying the data. "We should be arriving at Oryx Prime's system in 16 hours. No known trade routes. No recent records. It's as if they've been trying to keep this place off the books." Voss exhaled slowly, because they knew one day someone would come looking. The Elder's feathery crest twitched. "And they will not welcome you as guests." That much was obvious. The Varun had escaped the judgment of history, but their sins had not been forgotten. Now retribution was coming, the shadow that follows. As the Resolute traveled through the black void, something watched. Something unseen. Something waiting. Serrano, the ship's sensor officer, sat hunched over his console, his brows furrowed. Every scan, every check came back the same. Nothing. And yet, something was wrong. The Resolute moved too smoothly. The silence was too deep. There was an unnatural stillness in the space around them, like they weren't just traveling, like they were being escorted. His hands worked quickly across the console. "Commander," he called, his voice tight, "we're still getting anomalous readings." Voss turned. "How anomalous?" Serrano hesitated. "Sir, it's outside the ship." A ripple of unease passed through the bridge crew. Rourke straightened. "What do you mean outside? If it's a tailing vessel, we should be able to see it." Serrano's fingers danced across the holographic interface, overlaying sensor scans with real space visuals. Nothing. No ships, no debris, no anomalies. But there was something. A distortion, a gravitational imperfection in the void itself, tracking them at a constant distance. "It's like a presence," Serrano murmured, adjusting the feeds. "I don't know how to explain it, sir, but it's as if something is moving with us. Not beside us, not behind us, with us, like a shadow cast against the fabric of space." Voss's jaw tightened. "You carry the hunger with you." The Varun's message whispered in his mind. He turned to the Elder Valerie. "Can the Maw do this?" The Elder's black eyes gleamed in the dim bridge light. "The Maw is not a creature, not in the way you understand. It is a hunger made real. If it follows, then it has chosen you as its next course." A cold chill passed through the room. Rourke clenched his fists. "If it's following us, can we kill it?" The Elder shook his head. "You do not kill the void. You do not kill hunger. You only close the door, or feed it something greater." A silence settled over them. Voss exhaled sharply. "Then let's close the door." Oryx Prime, the hidden world. The Resolute exited FTL with a violent lurch, reality snapping back into place as the massive warship breached the defenses of the unknown system. Before them, Oryx Prime loomed. A planet shrouded in perpetual storm, its surface a jagged wasteland of spires and chasms. Vast ionized clouds swirled across the atmosphere, crackling with silent lightning. Orbiting above it, a fleet. Varun warships, sleek, obsidian-hulled, their designs eerily organic, as if grown rather than built. Their forms bristled with weaponry, yet they did not move to engage. They simply waited, as if expecting them. Voss's eyes narrowed. "They knew we were coming." Serrano scanned the fleet. No signs of energy spikes. No targeting locks. They're just sitting there. Rourke's grip tightened on the console. "That's not how defensive fleets work. They should be opening fire. They should be." A flicker on the comms. Then a voice. Calm. Cold. Confident. "Terran vessel. We knew you would come. You were expected." The bridge went still. Voss stepped forward. "This is Commander Elias Voss of the United Terran Fleet. You unleashed something on the Valerie homeworld, something you had no right to control. We've come to see justice done." A moment of silence. Then the voice returned. "Justice. You do not understand what you meddle with, Terran. You came seeking war. But war is already here." Voss frowned. "What are you talking about?" A pause. Then the holographic display flickered, and Oryx Prime changed. The swirling storms parted for just a moment. Beneath them, the planet moved. Not tectonic shifts, not an earthquake. Something beneath the surface, something huge. Then, a single transmission, one that did not come from the Varun. A horrid rasping whisper that made every crew member freeze where they stood. "I see you." And just like that, the Maw had found them. Oryx Prime had not been a refuge. It had been the feeding ground, and they had walked straight into its lair. The moment the whisper echoed through the ship, a deep, unnatural silence followed. Not the kind of silence that came from an absence of noise, but the kind that devoured sound, swallowing it into an abyss of unknowable depths. Voss clenched his fists, shields to full, weapons hot. Now, a ripple of motion surged through the bridge crew as hands darted across consoles, activating defensive protocols. Red emergency lights bathed the command deck in a dull glow, a silent warning of impending catastrophe. Oryx Prime shuddered, not metaphorically, not poetically. The planet itself moved. The crust split open, miles of rock crumbling inward as something ancient stirred beneath. And then it rose. The Maw reveals itself. It was not a creature in the way the human mind understood creatures. It had no flesh, no scales, no definable body that could be targeted. Instead, it was a wound in reality, a tear in the fabric of existence itself. Where its form should have been, there was only emptiness, a space where the eye refused to focus, where light itself bent and died. But it had a presence, and that presence was colossal. The ships in orbit trembled, their hulls groaning under the pressure of its awakening. The Varuan fleet, once ominous and prepared, now seemed infinitesimal compared to the horror that emerged from the planet's depths. Voss watched as the holoscreens flickered, struggling to process the data. The Maw didn't just distort space, it devoured information itself. "Commander," Serrano whispered, sweat glistening on his brow. This isn't just an entity. This is a cosmic scale anomaly." "I don't." The comms exploded with chaos. Varuan warships, their previous arrogance shattered, broke formation and attempted to retreat. But it was too late. The Maw reached. It did not move with tentacles or appendages. Instead, the space around it simply collapsed inward, drawing everything toward its abyssal core. One by one, ships began to fold in on themselves, their matter crushed into nothingness. A Varuan dreadnought, once a titan of war, became a mere speck in the void before disappearing in an instant. Panic ignited across the fleet. It was not an enemy they could fight. It was not a force they could outmaneuver. It was hunger incarnate, a desperate gamble. Voss felt the weight of his choices settle upon his chest, like an iron hand. The Velari Elder's voice was soft but firm beside him. "You have led the Maw here, Commander. And now you must lead it away." Voss exhaled sharply. "How do you fight something that isn't alive?" The Elder's feathers ruffled slightly, a sign of tension. "You do not fight. You trick. You lead it to something more tempting, something it cannot resist." Rourke turned from his station. And what the hell could be more tempting than an entire fleet? The Elder's black eyes gleamed. An entire star. Silence. Then Voss understood. The Maw was not bound by the limits of physical hunger. It did not consume in the way organic life understood consumption. It erased. And there was no greater reservoir of raw energy than a star itself. Voss turned to Serrano. "Find me a target." The officer's hands flew across the controls, scanning the system for a viable option. The ship's AI crunched through probabilities at breakneck speed. Then a single result appeared. A white dwarf. Smaller than a full star, but still immensely dense. A collapsed remnant of what had once been a burning sun. It might just be enough. Voss clenched his jaw. "Can we create a gravitational wake strong enough to make it seem like a more viable target?" Serrano hesitated, then nodded. "If we overload the ship's FTL drives and simulate an emergency jump straight into the star's gravity well, the energy output might mimic the gravitational signature of a collapsing object, a feeding opportunity. But if we do that," Rourke said slowly, "we'll be the bait." Voss exhaled through his nose. We are the bait, and if we don't do this, there won't be anyone left to save." His fingers tightened into a fist. "Set the course." The maw gives chase. The Resolute banked hard, its thrusters roaring as it turned away from Oryx Prime. The maw followed. It did not move like a ship. It did not move like anything that had ever existed in the universe. It simply was, and then it was closer. The distance between them became meaningless. The void shrieked as reality itself bent under its presence. The Resolute shook violently, warning klaxons blaring as the gravitational anomalies twisted the very laws of physics. Rourke braced against the console. "Hull integrity at 70%. If we don't get out of here in the next 3 minutes, we won't have a ship left." Voss's knuckles whitened. "Punch it. Now." The ship's engines roared to life. The void broke apart as the Resolute pushed forward at full burn, the gravitational weight behind it artificially spiking to extreme levels. The maw hesitated. For the first time since its awakening, it paused. Then it turned. The bait had been taken. With a soundless scream, the maw lunged, not at the ship, but at the star itself. Reality fractured. The white dwarf, a celestial body millions of years old, cracked. Its gravitational field buckled under the impossible pull. A supernova began to form. The crew watched in mute horror as the star collapsed inward. Its final death throes ignited in a brilliant, furious explosion of light, and the maw was caught in its jaws. For the first time, the hunger had bitten off more than it could swallow. The Resolute barely escaped, its engines at the brink of failure as it tore away from the dying system. Behind them, in the distant abyss, the maw struggled. And for the first time, it screamed. Aftermath. The ship drifted in the void, its hull battered, its crew exhausted, but they had survived. Oryx Prime was gone. The Varun, their sins laid bare, had paid the ultimate price. The Velari Elder stood beside Voss, gazing at the dying remnants of the supernova. "It is not dead," the Elder murmured, "only trapped. It will find a way to return one day." Voss exhaled. "Then we'll be ready." The Resolute turned toward the stars once more. Humanity had answered the SOS, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Resolute drifted through the void, its hull scarred from the battle it had barely survived. The ship's once pristine plating was now marred with deep fractures, its energy reserves depleted, and its weapons running on fumes. But none of that mattered. They had escaped. They had led the maw into the crushing jaws of a dying star, trapping it within the catastrophic fury of a supernova, an event so powerful it could obliterate entire planetary systems. But the galaxy was not safe. Voss stood on the bridge, his arms crossed over his chest as he gazed at the shifting nebula of destruction on the holoscreen. What had once been Oryx Prime was now a shattered graveyard of molten debris, the dying embers of a once thriving world flickering like fading stars. A silence hung over the command deck. It was not relief. It was not victory. It was the weight of understanding. The crew had seen something that defied everything they knew. Something ancient. Something unstoppable. Something that had only been delayed, not destroyed. The aftermath of the battle. The Resolute's communications array was finally back online. Serrano had spent the last hour recalibrating it manually, bypassing burned-out circuits and overloading backup systems just to get a signal strong enough to punch through the interference. The moment the connection stabilized, a flood of transmissions poured in. The Unified Terran Command, the Velari High Council, dozens of independent planetary governments. They were all listening. Voss exhaled sharply and turned to his crew. "We send the message now," he said. "All of it. Every detail." Rourke leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "And what do we even call it?" Serrano exhaled. "The Maw." A silence fell across the bridge as the name settled over them like a heavy shadow. "Send it," Voss said. Serrano's fingers hovered over the console. He hesitated for only a moment before pressing transmit. And with that, the warning was sent. "The galaxy listens. The response was immediate. Within hours, the message had spread across the stars. It was not just received by Terran Command or the Valerii. It was intercepted by every major faction, every military intelligence network, every Black Ops surveillance group across the galaxy. The unified Terran Command responded first. Admiral Callahan, one of the most decorated strategists in human history, appeared on the screen, his face pale, his expression grim. "Captain Voss," he said, "we received your report." His eyes flicked downward, scanning the data. "I would very much like to believe this is an elaborate hoax, but given what we just detected at the edge of the Oryx system..." He trailed off. No words were needed. Terran deep space observatories had confirmed it. The entire star system was now a gravitational anomaly. The very laws of physics had been twisted by the Maw's presence. Callahan's voice hardened. "We need every detail you have." Voss nodded. "We sent everything. We barely made it out alive. If we hadn't led it to the star, we wouldn't be having this conversation." Callahan was silent for a moment. Then he muttered, almost to himself, and even that might not have been enough. A second transmission came through. It was not from the Valerii. It was not human. The crew froze as a symbol flickered onto the screen. A sigil unfamiliar to all but the most seasoned Synod historians. A Zorathi war emblem. The Zorathi Empire. One of the most brutal, expansionist alien civilizations in the known galaxy. They had warred against humanity for centuries. And yet, here they were, reaching out. A figure appeared, tall, armored, reptilian. A Zorathi warlord. His scaled face was unreadable, but his words carried the weight of a species that had seen what was coming. "We have heard your warning, Terran," the warlord rumbled. "And for the first time in history, we believe you." Another pause. "And that terrifies us. The galaxy prepares." The Maw's emergence had changed everything. Fleets that had once fired upon each other now sat motionless in deep space, watching the transmissions of Oryx Prime's destruction with mutual horror. The Valerii elders convened in their hidden sanctuaries, whispering of prophecies long ignored. The Galactic Senate, usually slow and divided, held an emergency session. Factions that had spent centuries locked in bitter feuds now sat in the same chambers, speaking not of war, not of resources, but of survival. But amidst the political chaos, the reality remained. The Maw was not dead. It had been trapped, delayed, but not defeated. And if it had woken once, it would wake again. The final mission. Back aboard the Resolute, Voss stood alone in his quarters. The lights were dim, the room silent except for the faint hum of the ship's power core. His gaze lingered on the holomap of the galaxy, now littered with red markers, zones of potential Maw anomalies, regions marked for evacuation or military presence. A knock on the door. Serrano entered, his expression tense. "We have new orders," he said. "High Command is assembling an expeditionary force." Voss frowned. "To do what?" Serrano's throat bobbed as he swallowed. "To find out if this thing is the only one of its kind." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Voss exhaled, running a hand down his face. He had hoped, prayed, that this had been a one-time event, a unique anomaly. But deep down, he had always known better. If one had existed, then others might still be waiting. Waiting to wake. Waiting to feed. He straightened, inhaling sharply. "When do we leave?" Serrano met his gaze. "In 72 hours. Voss nodded. The fight was not over. It had only just begun. The final warning. A message was sent across the stars. A single dire statement broadcasted to every species, every fleet, every ruler, and every soldier who might still believe their worlds were safe. It contained the last known footage of the Maw. And beneath it, a warning written in 100 languages. It is still out there, and it is not alone. Humanity had spoken. The question was, would the galaxy listen?